Here. Trustee Gallinano here. We have a quorum present. So I want to start off by providing a summary of why we're here tonight and how we got here. So in late October, one of our board members announced her resignation from the board. That led for the board to take action and launch a recruitment process to fill the board vacancy. The board must have 5 members to operate. We were given time constraints to do this. Additionally, per board policy, a subcommittee was formed to develop a process and set the parameters for the process. This included setting a timeline, developing an application, and setting requirements. And the results of that process are as follows. We received 11 applications, 6 were submitted on time, 5 were invited to interview, and 4 accepted the invitation to be here today for the in-person interview. Of the 5 applications that were submitted late, 3 applicants petitioned for their applications to be accepted despite missing the deadlines. The reasonings range from internet issues, an email address error, and not seeing the time deadline on the application that was available in the prompt on the website and the newsletter. Of the 6 that submitted on time, 1 did not fill out the designated application or provide a statement that answered the question that was required. This person also asked for an exception to be made, reason being that no one had sent them the application. I brought all these cases to my subcommittee colleague, and we discussed the different cases and scenarios. We were very sympathetic to the varying reasons that everyone provided. In the end, it was determined that we would respect the process that was outlined and hold all applicants to the standard and requirements that were set in order to preserve the integrity of the process by not showing bias or favoritism by making exceptions to one candidate over another. One of the other 6 applicants who submitted on time and who did fill out the application was invited to participate today. However, they did not want to come in person for the interview and felt that given the COVID-19 situation we all find ourselves in, accommodations should be made for this individual to be interviewed virtually. I also had brought this case up with my colleague, and we communicated to that individual, I communicated to that individual that the board had opted for in-person interviews and that the health and safety guidelines would be followed and implemented, and that we felt the level of importance of this task was significant enough that it required an in-person interview. I also shared that when we did a superintendent search, we were under similar health conditions, and we also did in-person interviews because of the severity of the occasion. I did also let that individual know that if they had any underlying health conditions that would prevent them from attending in person, that we would then accommodate. In the end, this individual opted to not move forward if the board would not accommodate a virtual interview. I want to first say that to the applicants and to the community, that we are holding and we put forth standards that we have all had to adhere to when we sought to seek this seat that we are sitting in now, which was guidelines, regulations, and deadlines, and having to adhere to whatever those were. So I'm bringing it before the board for a few reasons. One, I wanted to make sure that the full board and the community heard the process in spirit of transparency. And 2, also to get feedback, because some people felt like maybe this is something that should be discussed with the full board and make any according changes depending on how the board felt. So I think Trustee Gallinano cannot, since she was an applicant, she can't speak to if we should change and accept applications that were submitted after the fact because that would directly affect her, but she will have some comments that she will want to share afterwards.
Can I give an opinion on the one who needs accommodation, because that doesn't affect me?
Yes, we'll talk about that. We're going to first talk about the lay applications, and then we'll talk about the
Okay,
accommodations.
so should I wait?
Yes, so you can just get this one. Okay. So I wanted to ask for the lay applications, based on the summary I gave you of the actions we took. Do you feel this was an appropriate way for the subcommittee to move forward, or would you like for us to reconsider and accept any lay applications?
So, for me, no to the late applications, because then it opens it up to everything. It's like, well, what's the point in setting a deadline, and what's the point in putting a process in place that people are allowed to not follow that process? Okay? So for me, I don't think we should be accepting the late applications. I'm good with the decision that was made.
Okay.
I would like to ask a question about the person that says that they don't want to come in person.
Okay, can we just get one more? Okay, so that resolves late applications. The next person was the person who submitted information on time but did not fill out the application or answer the same question. Do you feel that the subcommittee acted accordingly?
Yeah, because they didn't complete the application.
Okay.
If they didn't submit if they didn't do what was required, then they didn't apply.
So that takes us to the last request that Trustee Galvin. We asked our lawyers, once Trustee Galvin was notified that unfortunately, the deadline was not met for her application, and we sought legal counsel about her participation on this panel here this evening. Our legal counsel let me know that she would be able, since she's no longer a candidate, would be able to be a part of the board panel and interview the candidates that we have here before tonight, which is why she was here present, and I let her know that.
But I just want to bring out that on the website, it did say in small letters, the application will be accepted until 5. But on the real application, if you look at it, it says no application will be accepted after November 20. So there is not consistency. And it's not one side of the other. It's like, yes, there was one mistake on the side of the person not taking it at 5, but there was also a mistake in here. It should have said after 5 on the application. Because what will happen if somebody says, look, looking for a board member, this is the application. All you look is at the application. The application does not say anything about 5 o'clock. It says 29. So there was a mistake here or a mistake put over there, right here. Is the time frame that you get when you see the application? It doesn't say on the application. 5 o'clock. So you can look at it. I know they are related because they put it together, but to me, it would have been very fair if it says no application will be accepted after November 20 at 5 o'clock. Until 5 or after 5. That would have been fair. Very fair. Like, you missed it. But what happens? People get the 20 on the mind, and you still think, until 12. I have other things to do, still 12. So that's the only thing that is kind of putting us together. And what I'm feeling right now is that by not accepting those applications, we're opening the doors for an election, for calling an election, because it feels like it's not a fair process. It's just one election.
So, how did they get the application? Did they download it?
The application was available online on our website that had a prompt that gave the requirements, which included the time. It was also made available through the newsletter that also indicated the time deadline. So the application was linked to both the newsletter and to the website that both designated the time frame for which the application is due.
Okay.
Okay, so that takes us to our last consideration, which Trustee Galvin will be able to provide her guidance as well as another board member, since she's a part of the panel now. To the individual who did submit on time and did fill out the requirements, but would not come in for an in-person interview. Like I said, I let her know that this was the board's wishes and I would not be able to personally overturn the direction of the board, but that I let her know today that I would bring it before the board. So this is another consideration.
So through the chair, did it say on the application site or anything that it was an in-person interview?
I don't think that it did. No, it didn't. Not on the application. No, I think maybe on the website it would say that interview details and information were to follow. So we had not specified where they were, but I believe at our last board meeting is when we confirmed that we did have a desire to meet in person. And at that point, we let candidates know based off of our last meeting. And all of them were responsive, and including this individual was also responsive, but she would like to be accommodated for a virtual interview.
So my thing, in my opinion, if she has a health reason to be accommodated, then I think we should accommodate them. But if it's not a health reason, then I'm sorry, but that's the process, and we prepare so that we have all the protocols in place. So,
How are we gonna establish the health reason? Usually it's a doctor's paper, how are we gonna establish the health reason?
how are we gonna what?
How are we gonna establish?
I asked her if she had an underlying health condition to please let me know, and we would accommodate. She did not submit anything that related to a health condition, an underlying health condition. That's how I addressed that. Okay, so I believe that is also supportive of the subcommittee's decision to have in-person interviews for all candidates unless they would have an underlying health condition that prevented them from being here in person. So that resolved all the business matter. And now we are going to move to interviewing the actual candidates.
So we're not gonna vote on that, and we allow him?
It wasn't a vote, it was just providing
okay.
direction.
Thank you.
Yeah, we were just providing a summary and having a discussion with the board if they wanted to pursue a discussion further, and that's where we are right now. Okay. So now we can move on to interviews, but before we do, I would like to ask the board if they would like to have public comment before we start the interviews or at the end of the interviews. We were gonna find a time for public comment. So it'll either be before we hear from everyone, before each person gets interviewed, or after. So how would the board like to proceed? I would like to hear from everybody.
I think after.
Okay. Just are you okay with after?
Yes.
Okay. So we will hear from all speakers after the interviews are made. All right, so in your packets, you have the applications of every candidate. You also have the interview questionnaire. This questionnaire was formulated by the trustees, the collective board. There was a request sent out to submit any questions they would like to be asked for tonight. Some of them were similar, so they were merged. But there are 8 questions for the candidates tonight, and we will take turns reading them. We can start from Trustee Wilson and move on to myself and so forth. There are also notes in your packet, double-sided. You can write the candidate's name, and every question that they answer, you can write notes. And at the end of this double-sided, there's a rating. This rating is not to be submitted. This is for your own reference point. Because sometimes when you go from one candidate to the next, you kind of forget, so you want to write a note of top tier candidate, or, I would like to see this person again. I was going to suggest that at the end of all 4 interviews, you have post-its in front of you. I would suggest to put the top 2 candidates that you feel should move forward. If a candidate receives a minimum of 2 votes, they can be considered for either bringing them back and asking the person. This is a standard, we have a standard question that's going to be asked of everybody.
They have those questions over there.
The questions are also at the table. Once we determine who are the top 2 candidates based on who everybody votes for, They will be asked back, and you can ask follow-up questions that are not on this questionnaire. If something arose during the interview that sparked your interest for the application, you can bring them back and ask them something specifically to them as their candidacy and not a general question. And then after that point, the board can listen to public comment and then we'll deliberate. Are there any questions? All right. In that case, I will ask for staff to please bring in the first candidate, which I believe is Laletti Group. It's one item. So you choose your last one, so one item. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So trustee Donna, your question 4 and 8.
What's that? Say it again.
Your question 4 and 8. Number 4, number 8. Hello. Hello. Hi. Hi. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We ask that you use your teacher's voice or maybe parent voice and object as much as possible. So not only the board can hear you, but anyone viewing can hear you as well. In front of you, you have the questions so that you can follow along, because sometimes I know when people are saying something out loud, you might miss something, but you'll have this reference point in front of you. Okay. And we will kick it off with trustee Wilson asking you the first question. Right.
Hi. So can you tell us the reason why you chose to apply for the board vacancy?
Okay, I apologize, I am super nervous. I do not practice any of these questions, but I will try my best. I chose to apply for this board vacancy just because I wanted to kind of represent East Palo Alto as a parent. I wasn't following the school board, the running, but I wanted to represent, being a parent for one, the Polynesian community for two. I want to be able to make some sort of change. A lot of the changes that go on through Ravenswood City School District, I feel should also incorporate, a parent who has a child that it might involve, we have to abide by these new rules or standards. So I want to make sure that we as parents have a voice as well.
Good, thank you. Second question is, what do you believe the role of a trustee is?
I'm not really too good with this, but I believe the board of trustees upholds, some of our rules and regulations. We make sure a lot of the things that we do are for the betterment of our kids, our schools, our teachers, our community.
Thank you. Hello and welcome again. Okay, what in your background or experience makes you feel prepared to serve on this board? Please tell us about your experience with education in a school setting, such as past position related to teaching in the classroom, special education, curriculum development, education policy, or otherwise.
To be honest, I have no experience or background in any type of teaching setting. I am a team manager for a youth sports program. I do try to involve myself in a lot of our school meetings. Like right now, I think we're going through a change with our schools. My son is part of Castano. So I try to visit Cafecito meetings, DLAC meetings as much as possible. I feel like I could do more. I really don't have more than that, but I am a parent and I do feel like going through the Ravenswood City school system with my two older kids, who both are not in high school, I still so sorry, I'm so nervous.
It's okay.
It's okay.
I'm nervous, and I've been on this board for 2 years. I'm always
And
As a parent, I've put my kids through the Ravenswood City School System. Since my oldest was in kindergarten, she started out at Bellhaven, and now she is a senior at MA. And right now, I have a fourth grader who's going through Castanio and a child who will be coming into the school system. Now, I feel like there could be changes that could better our kids from what my daughters had to what the future of Ravenswood City School District could be for my sons.
Thank you.
So I will be asking the next question. What do you believe are the major issues facing the district? Pretty much.
Right now, I believe from what I gathered in our meetings before, a lot of it comes from financial reasons. You know, sometimes we are looking towards stability, being able to provide for our school district. I know that we undergone closing 2 schools just to be able to save funding. I think that's one, but the major thing now with COVID is being able to reach out and have our kids provide better for our district learning. Because right now we're struggling, and I think that's every household, every district. That's something I think we should work on as well, trying to figure out how to, just how to better reach our kids now with COVID and distant learning.
Oh, right, that's big. Okay, how would you manage a situation when you are faced with a difficult decision that is in the best interest of the district, but has community opposition?
I believe I've been on the other end of that. I think that's something that I wasn't thinking about right now. I think what we don't think about is the middle ground, you know, that we all have to give and take at some point. You know, we have to use what we know best, our experience. As a parent, I know that I do my best to find what's best between me and my child. And sometimes we like to overshadow and say, no, this is not good. I believe that we can find middle. I'm the middleman. I'm the person who's like, okay, there has to be a way where we can work together, where we're both happy. There has to be a way.
Thank you. All right. Understanding the sensitive nature of our district's budget and resource management, what would you do to prepare Ravenswood for the financial challenges that a potential state recession might bring? That's a challenging question.
Yes.
Okay, would you like to read that for me one more time?
Understanding the sensitive nature of our district's budget and resource management issues, I would say. What would you do to prepare Ravenswood for the financial challenges that a potential state recession might bring? And this is a very big question, you know that. I mean, we grapple with it all the time, so don't feel intimidated by the question.
Honestly, I wouldn't be able to answer it the way that you want me to, or that would sound good, but for me, I would do the best I can using what I know as a single parent. A lot of times I have to manage my own budget, and that means having to make, some of the most toughest decisions, but a lot of the times I put my kids' needs before our wants. Stuff that we want will have to be put on the back burner in order to provide for the needs first, if that makes sense. But as a parent, that's, thinking about my own budget, thinking about what I have to work with and what's needed and what's wanted.
Thank you.
This is so, I'm so sorry.
Who's up? We got two more. Is it
Okay, good. Good for me.
Okay, number 7. Between regular meetings, special meetings, subcommittee meetings, meetings with the superintendent, meetings with community members, email, phone correspondence, the time commitment of a school board member can be anywhere between 16 to 24 hours per month. If you're the president, like President Polito, or the vice president, like Trustee Wilson, those hours will increase. Do you have the time in your schedule to dedicate the next 2 years to be an actively engaged school board trustee?
So sorry, I was actually looking for tissue.
Oh, tissue.
I'm so
One moment. I should have put this on the table.
Thank you. So sorry, you guys.
Oh, no,
Just
no,
apologize. Let me tell you, when we were back there, it's nothing like being in front of you guys.
We're all friendly, we're all friendly.
Yeah.
So, all I heard was meetings, and meetings. Right there, I have my calendar, and a lot of my time is spent putting together my priorities and where a lot of my time is dedicated to. And honestly, looking at this, 2 years to me was a lot better than the 4 years if you were to run. I would definitely love to dedicate my time for the next 2 years, whether it's 16 hours, 40, 60, whatever it takes for the betterment of our kids is what I'm here for.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so mine is easy. In just a few short sentences, is there anything else you think we should know as we consider your candidacy?
Honestly, you have 3 other great candidates back there as well. I just think I'm super passionate. I think that a lot of the times when I'm here, if you see me at board meetings or at the school, it's more speaking on behalf of our kids and our community. And I just try. Even knowing that I didn't grow up knowing what the school district is, I'm just now figuring out about board meetings and DLAC and CAPCITOs for the last 2 years. So whether I get it or not, I'm just happy to be part of, the Ravenswood City School District. I figured this would be the best place to start and figuring out how to make change, because we talk about policies and regulations and how to figure out how does something get changed like this. And, I'll be back in a minute if I'm not, if I'm not here this time. I know that seating is always available, but it gives me a better experience of speaking to you guys. And then it was practice, but I'm like this here when we do our meetings anyways, when I come and speak on behalf of something that matters to me and my kids and my family. But I really appreciate your time, and thank you guys.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We're going to ask you to please stick around at the end. We can potentially ask candidates to return for follow-up questions. Not here in this space, but back in the room.
So wait. Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, yes, we're going to take a 2-minute break so they can disinfect the the space so the person can.
Oh, okay. So everything was great?
Everything's great. And I'm not listening to the conversation.
The question in.
So someone's going to do this one.
Hi.
Thank you. He's finishing up. He's leaving. Okay, I think Zion, thank you so much. So write your notes so you can remember.
There's no page missing on this application.
With one page, I'm saying.
Hello. Hello. Sorry, I'm shedding necklaces.
Welcome, welcome.
Thank you for the invitation. Terrifying but wonderful.
We're excited to have you and thanks for your interest in applying, filling more vacancies. So we're going to go through a few questions with you. The questions are right in front of you, so we'll figure read along or just listen, but they're a point of reference for you. Trustee Wilson will start and we'll just go around.
Okay, great.
Hello. Can you tell us the reason why you chose to apply for the board vacancy?
I chose to apply because although I'm fairly new to the East Palo Alto community, I've been working with the Ravenswood School District for several years, and I've worked with education for several years, and it's definitely become a passion. It's something that I feel so strongly about, making sure that students have quality education and seeing some of the discrepancies in what they do with students have had available to them has made me want to fight for them, and has made me want to stand up and be an advocate for them and advocate for the teachers that I know are working so hard in the district. So as I said, although I'm new to the district in terms of where I live, I've been working in the area for a while. Something that has come to mean a lot to me in my roles.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so what do you believe the role of a trustee is?
I think the role can be both simplified and expanded on. I think the simple answer is an advocate. It's somebody who advocates for the students, for the families, for the teachers, for the community as a whole. A trustee is somebody who protects the resources and the rights that are being utilized and are being consumed. I think a trustee is somebody who is the voice for people who maybe don't necessarily have a voice for themselves or don't feel like they have a voice. And so I feel like trustees are that voice, and that they are the ones that are going to be working to try to improve students and communities.
Thank you.
What in your background or experience makes you feel prepared to serve on this board? Please tell us about your experience with education in the school setting, such as past positions, related to teaching in classrooms, special education, development, education policy.
So although I've never worked in a formal education setting in the K through 6 or K through 8 setting. I've been working as a nonprofit environmental educator for the last 15 years. And prior to that, I worked in higher education for community college in Santa Barbara. And my experience has been both a wide breadth of experiences with different school districts, different schools, different teachers. And I feel that that experience has given me a really good grounding to see what works and what doesn't work with school districts and schools. I have had the opportunity to work on a lot of curriculum development, again, for an informal educational setting, but working with teachers and helping to integrate that curriculum into their pedagogy and their teaching curriculum as well. So being able to look at, for example, things like science standards and social studies, and how that works in the classroom setting, and how we can improve educational standards from the outside a little bit, but being able to see what works and what doesn't work in the classroom setting. So I feel like that experience has given me an opportunity to work with a wide variety of people, but also to see what works and what doesn't in the classroom.
Thank you.
What do you believe are the major issues facing?
In the district, some of the major issues facing the district are resources is obviously going to be one that we have a population decline, unfortunately, in the district, which is a cause for concern. And I think another issue is teacher retention, specifically quality teacher retention, being able to keep teachers that we want in the classroom and ones that are going to be providing the students quality education. And I think equity of resources and opportunities is also a really major issue that faces the district. Working with, a predominantly low-income community creates its own challenges, but the district deserves to have good education, no matter what the community is made up of. And so I feel like that is one of the biggest challenges and one of the issues is that issue of equity, of making sure that every student has an opportunity for quality education.
Okay, back to me. How would you manage a situation when you're faced with a difficult decision that is in the best interest of the district, but has community opposition?
I think we've seen several decisions recently that have fallen under that category. I think recognizing, I was just talking to a friend of mine about this, about specifically the issue with the school closures. I think the biggest challenge there is that there was no perfect solution. There was no perfect solution. And recognizing that some of the decisions are going to be difficult and they are going to be hard, and there's not going to be a perfect solution that makes everybody happy. But I also think that if you are dealing with a decision like that, it's making the community happy. One of the biggest things that's going to help ameliorate that is that you have to listen. You have to be willing to listen, and you have to let the community speak and let them tell you why they're opposed to it, why they have challenges with it, let them feel like their voice matters, and recognizing that they're the ones that the decision is going to be affecting. But also recognizing in the end that the district has to make the decisions and they have to make the hard choices. And as I said, I know that the example of the school district or the schools closing is that was a heartbreaking decision for a lot of people that, in my neighborhood, recognizing that frankly was going to be closing is just awful. It's not something that my neighbors were happy about, but it was something that had to be done, and it was going to make the district stronger. And I think being able to highlight the positives as well as not dismissing the opposition, but being able to highlight the fact that it will make the district stronger, in a stronger position, and give a stronger standing to be able to move forward, I think will be important as well. It's not always perfect, but you can highlight that positive and make it a little bit easier to understand what it's.
Okay, so understanding the sensitive nature of our district budget and resource management, what would you do to prepare Ravenswood for the financial challenges that a potential state recession might bring?
Ooh, that is a difficult question. I don't know that I have a quick or easy answer to that one. I think preparing the community and preparing the district as much as possible, recognizing that there are going to be some difficult choices coming ahead and that there is going to have to be some challenges that are going to be overcome, have to be overcome. So I think communication will be a big part of that, and not having things be a surprise, making sure that the community, like the previous question, making sure that the community is part of the conversation so that it doesn't feel like they're getting the rug pulled out from underneath them. I don't know the specifics of the Ravenswood budget for obvious reasons, but you know, looking at it carefully, recognizing that there may be some places where efficiency can be played into, although I'm sure that that's been something that is already pretty tight. Yeah, I guess, as I said, I don't know that I have a quick or easy answer to that, but I think the communication that can be very upfront about decisions that have to be made and choices that are going to have to be made. Thank you.
Between regular meetings, special meetings, subcommittee meetings, meetings with the superintendent, meetings with constituents and community, and all this stuff, email, phone. Basically, the time commitment of a school board member could easily be between 16 and 24 hours a month. If you're the president or the vice president, that number increases. Do you have the time in your schedule to dedicate the next 2 years to be an actively engaged school board member?
You know, that is one that I can answer a very simple yes, and I will expand. I'm very fortunate in my current work schedule is a very standard, which is lovely 8 to 4 schedule. And my supervisor and my executive director feel very strongly about community engagement. I work for a nonprofit, so they understand that community engagement is our lifeblood. And so they actually encourage us to participate in community organizations and advocacy, whatever we find passionate to participate in. So I'm very supportive supervisory staff. I currently, you know, I'm not to say this is good or bad, but I don't have children right now, and I don't anticipate having children in the immediate near future. And I recognize that can be something that's difficult to balance, but it's just me right now. So the only person that I have to juggle the calendar with is my own self. And one of the things that I've actually been looking for the last few years is something that I can really sink my teeth into and give my time to. So this is actually coming in a really perfect timing. This is when I am seeking for something that I can devote some time to. Thank you.
Just fusion and is there anything else you think we should know as we consider your candidate?
So the irony of my situation is that I actually have not been a resident of this college for very long. And one of the things that I have very, very quickly come to love is the love about the East College community. And I am excited for the opportunity to be able to serve in a way that will help me drive other members of my community to be engaged and passionate about. So I come from a little bit of a different background. I don't have children in the school district. I didn't grow up in the school district, but I feel like the community needs to support the district even when they don't have children. in the district. And one of the things that I'm really passionate about is being able to get folks that are sort of in my situation, maybe that are single, that don't have children, but get them involved in the district as well, get them to support the community, so that those of us that live here recognize that our voices are important, that our participation can make a difference in the district, and that the children that are in this district belong to everybody, and we all have a responsibility to support them. So even though I haven't had a long history here, I do feel very grounded and rooted and just love the community. So that's what I'm going to say.
All right, thank you very much. That is the end of our questions. We ask that you return to the waiting room. We might ask for follow-up questions as we come up.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you so much.
You guys are not nearly as scary as on the screen.
You're lucky.
Thank you. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, 2 minutes so that we can
You need to speak louder. I got a text. So you can't do that. Laura.
At the end, people started to play this here.
Yeah.
So we just, well,
From
so we
there?
just, we started tweaking lower this time. So just keep the level up.
Let's keep that energy going.
Yes, and the more you talk towards.
And the mic's right here.
Now, we're reminding them. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Hello. How are you doing? Welcome. Thank you. Did it give you the questions? Yes, they did. Okay, so we're gonna ask you to use your teacher or parent voice, whichever works best.
Whichever louder.
Whichever is loudest. And we're gonna ask you a series of questions that are right in front of you, and just be open and we'll figure it out.
So can you tell us the reason why you chose to apply for this board vacancy?
So my name is Laura Nugent, and I'm actually a graduate of Ravenswood School. After attending Chavez, Brentwood, and graduated from here, I went to Eastside College Preparatory School, and I ended up at Stanford University. In those years, even at high school and in college, I always had a passion for working with youth. And so that landed me at College Track, which Teresa was there.
Yes.
At Math, doing with families there. At EPA.net, just did a series of different nonprofits, kind of just figuring out what it is that I wanted to do. And how to best support students and youth in the community. I ended up at College Academy as a teacher. I've been there since 2012. And I just want to make sure that Ravenswood City Schools or Ravenswood Schools are the best option for our students and our families. And so that's why I applied for the board vacancy. A lot has changed in the 2 years since I ran in 2018. And I want to be part of the changes that continue to happen in the school district. Okay, thank you. All right, second question. What do you believe to best serve the student? So in a way or in a pathway that will best serve the students and the families in our community. Whether that's by directing the budget or listening to teachers or listening to families and just taking all these considerations, laws and things that are constantly changing into account in order to move forward and guide the students the best way that we can. There's so many inequities already in society, and education can be a good way to try to level everyone up and
give them the best chance forward. Thank you.
On to number 3, we'll speak up. What in your background or experience makes you feel prepared to serve on this board? Please tell us about your experience with education in the school setting. Things like teaching, special education, formal governance, curriculum development, education policy.
So as I mentioned, I am a high school math teacher. And so I feel like that can at least make me very relatable to the teachers and the superintendent. And as we're learning and it's a good collaboration to kind of move forward and make decisions, because I've been in the classroom and now I'm recently a mother, so I will have children in the district hopefully. And so that should help me be more prepared. I think the math background that I have gives me the analytical edge, whereas I haven't really done budget stuff yet, but I hope that being able to analyze different situations can help me make better decisions in collaboration with everybody on the board. And then as I'm an older sister to a student in special education, and so my brother went to Ravenswood. And so although I'm not an expert at it a lot, I want to learn. I think it also brings another aspect in the importance of paying attention to that.
Thank you.
What did you believe are the major issues facing the district?
So I think that the biggest issues facing the district, especially right now, we're all in masks and no one's here, is obviously the pandemic. And when it's over, or if it ends soon, we're gonna have to deal with a lot of how much the students learn, how much they lose over this digital setting. I think the district has already done amazing things, like the food program and the learning hubs that they set up across the schools. But after the pandemic, we're gonna have to deal with there was already issues with enrollment, and I wonder how that's gonna play out after the pandemic. And so those are probably the biggest ones that we have to deal with moving forward.
Thank you.
Oh, that's big. How would you manage a situation that when you're faced with a difficult decision that is in the best interest of the district, but has community opposition?
I think this was an interesting question. because
You have a lot of experience with it.
yeah, that and I feel all of the board members are voted in by the community, and so that shows a lot of community support for you. There's trust in you because they elected you into the position. I feel like that's interesting in my position if I were to be appointed, because I'd be appointed. And so the community may or may not know me. I hope they know me enough from last time I ran. But I would hope that in any decision that's made that has community opposition, that they trust in the board that they elected, to know that we have the student in mind first and the community in mind first. And although they're not privy to a lot of the information that goes on behind the doors, I hope that they trust us in the way that we choose to move forward. And I feel like that's the message that I send them. And they might need to a little bit, hopefully in time they'll be able to see why we made the decision that we did.
All right, so understanding the sensitive nature of our district budget and resource management, what would you do to prepare Ravenswood for the financial challenges that a potential state recession might bring?
In terms of the budget and resource management, I'm not as well versed as I'd like, but I feel like if I were appointed, I'd absolutely lean on the board to try to help me understand more. But I also know that there's a lot of there's a lot of money out there to pay for it. And so I try to see who we can work with, whether it's a CDO or different community organizations or the Ravenswood Education Foundation, to see what we can do in order to try to alleviate or close the gap of whatever the state recession might bring.
you.
Okay. Between regular meetings, special meetings, subcommittee meetings, meetings with the superintendent, meetings with community members, email, phone calls, the time commitment of a school board member can easily be anywhere between 16 and 24 hours per month. If you are to serve as the president or the vice president, then those hours will increase. Do you have the time in your schedule to dedicate the next 2 years to be an actively engaged school board president?
I think this question was meant to scare people.
I was gonna say, maybe we should have put that question, because that really is scary.
But it's the truth.
It's the truth, yes.
Yeah, that's the truth, and I appreciate it.
It's like a part-time job.
Right? That you don't get paid for, right?
I think I would make sure to find the time, absolutely. And if that means, being a little bit less involved in some of my other duties, then so be it. But I think this is an important, non-job. But it's a really important job in general for the community and for the, because you're making a lot of decisions and a lot of, that impact a lot of people in the community. And so I would take it with all the seriousness. But try to make it fun, so it doesn't feel so cool.
Thank you.
I have one. In just few short sentences, is there anything else you think we should know as we consider your candidate?
I guess, just thank you for all that you do. I hope you know that if I am appointed, I will ask a lot of questions. I've never been in a position as you, and so I really hope to be able to work in community and collaboration and as a team with all of you. Because no one knows this. I don't think there's a specific job title to make you represent. I don't think. And so it's a point that I really asking a lot of questions and being able to.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So we're gonna ask you to return to the waiting room, and we might ask you back for follow-up questions. So just stick around. Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, 2 minutes to get them back and bring the next person in. Almost there. You're like, she looks familiar.
I know.
I'm fine, I know everybody. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Sam.
Not everybody, but I don't like it.
She knows most. Yeah. We're most on her.
Yeah,
that's right.
No, louder.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. So we're going to be asking you a series of questions that we're handing to you as you came in. You can follow along. We ask that you use your teacher or parent or aunt, boys, whatever category, because you look very young. So, and just project so that your voice picks up and the community can hear your responses. Just see what will pick up.
Okay, can you tell us the reason why you chose to apply for this board vacancy?
I decided to apply because I feel like I can bring a lot to the table when it comes to serving on the board. I believe that education is one of the main pillars of our community, and for our future young people to succeed, we need to put more emphasis and just attention towards education as well as the success rate. And I believe that I have some of the qualities that would be beneficial on the board.
Thank you. So what do you believe the role of a trustee is?
I believe that the role of the trustee is to really see the vision for the school district, where they're going and how they can get there. When I look at something like the strategic plan, the 5 you're seeing is basically a collaborative effort of what needs to be done throughout each year to get to the final point. And so I believe that the board member makes those hard decisions, communicates and makes sure that not only the community is engaged, but that you're listening and also making sure that the decisions that you make are aligned and forward.
Thank you. What in your background or experience makes you feel prepared to serve on this board? Please tell us about your experience with education in the school setting, such as past positions related to teaching in the classroom, special education, formal governance, curriculum development, and or education policy.
Thank you. As a young person here in East Palo Alto, I've been very engaged when it came to advocacy work. So I started a lot of my activism work when I was 16. When I went to college in Miami, every summer I came back and I served the sponsored employment program, mentoring our young people. And the last 4.5 years, I was on 2 school sites, so one near Academy at the time, as well as CCRMS. And so I was a program coordinator for the Behavioral Health Advisory Group Ambassador team. And my main role in that was to connect services around mental health and social services to our young people and our families here in Small Town, as well as on the site, the school site. I also work on a committee that works on immigration and climate. And so a lot of the work that I've done has been based here in this fall. And I believe those experiences put me at the feet of the people here in this fall, the young people, the parents, and as well as the teachers and staff on the school, to be able to hear what they're going through and find solutions to those problems that we're facing right now, as not only a school site, but also as a community. I believe that a lot of the issues that are happening with our young people affects the whole entire kind of structure of our education system. We can't just focus on our young people when they're going through bigger issues, bigger issues at home, like displacement, immigration. I believe that it's a whole family process. And so it's just addressing those, and that's something I
Thank you.
What do you believe are the major issues facing?
honestly, there's so many issues. It's hard to pinpoint one when you have issues like displacement, low school attendance, and budget. Like everything is kind of connected to each other. So I'll choose one that's kind of outside of that realm, and I think that COVID has really affected our school, especially the educational system. And that it's not only our families, but also our staff, teachers. They had to adapt to something that we've never experienced before. And so I think that that's the major issue that we're dealing with, not only as a school, but also as a community. And so I don't want to just leave it as like, that's our issue. I want to see ways that we can combat that. Like, how can we, as a district, support our teachers so that they feel equipped to be able to teach? Because it's hard for the teachers. I know that it's very hard for the families, especially the kids being at home, when you have a community like ours where there's multi-family households, internet access, these things. But on the flip side, we also have teachers that have not educated in this kind of environment. And so I believe it's just trying to fit certain areas to solve these major issues. And that's something that I would like to do.
Okay, that's a big. How would you manage a situation when you are faced with a difficult decision that is in the best interest of the district, but has community opposition?
I am quite familiar with being on the oppositional side of certain things, but I believe in every single role that I serve, I'm there for a reason. I have been appointed or I have been elected or I was voted to be in that position. And even though my personal feelings might be against what I would vote on, I will take into account what is the best for the district or the organization that I'm representing. And that happened to me quite a few times. But I do believe that when it comes down to making decisions, you should overlook what you personally think to make sure that it's best for the constituents or whoever you're serving. So I'm not afraid of the backlash. I'm quite used to it. And we've been doing community here for a little bit. There's some thick skin, and just know that sometimes they'll attack you. They're not attacking you like in tomatoes. You know, they put tomatoes, you try to be pasta, you just try to stay positive and realize that it really does come down to why you do this. You know, you all have served on this board for many years. And you know that it's not because of the money. You do it because of the heart. You have a heart because you want to serve. And that's something that I also believe.
All right, so understanding the sensitive nature of our district's budget and resource management, what would you do to prepare Ravenswood for the financial challenges that a potential state recession might bring?
Thank you. I worked in the nonprofit sector for the last X amount of years, and I also work for a social justice organization. So I see a bit of a different spectrum when it comes to money and budgeting. I believe, or I know that it comes down to looking at what is available in our area. We have a lot of foundations, we have a lot of grants, and we have a lot of other tunnels that we can come to when it comes to budgeting. I think that as long as we're transparent with transparent across the board, but as long as you, how do I say this? It's making the decisions and explaining why you make those decisions. There's going to be times where certain things are going to be cut because of X, Y, Z, and it's making sure that the general public knows that this is why you're making these decisions. I do have experience in budgeting, so I'm quite aware, but I'm not the kind of person that just comes up and is like, that's all we can afford. My thing is, let's constantly work on finding ways to fund what we want to achieve here at this.
Thank you. Between regular meetings, special meetings, subcommittee meetings, meetings with the superintendent, meetings with community members, email, phone correspondence, so on, so on, so on. The time commitment of a school board member could easily be anywhere between 16 and 24 hours per month. If you were to serve as the president or the vice president during your time on the board, those hours would increase. Do you have the time in your schedule to dedicate the next 2 years to be an actively engaged school board president?
I believe I do. I believe I do. And it comes down to where my heart is and where my desires are. And I want to serve, I want to be used for the betterness of our district. I believe that I can really give a lot of my time and energy. I know that I'm involved in a lot of boards, a lot of initiatives, a lot of organizations, and so there's going to be some shifting that's going to happen. But I'm committed to this work, and I believe that I'll be able to serve.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry. In just future sentences, is there anything else you think we should know as we consider your time?
Yes, I think some things that I want you all to know is that I'm really committed to this work. If it's me and it's not me, that's okay because I'm still going to show up. I'm still very passionate about our community, about our young people, about what happens. And so this isn't a one-time shot, two-time shot. It's a, where can I fit in this mold? I'm a person that doesn't believe that no is the final answer. I believe in exhausting every single measure that is possibly there, and just trying to find ways to be helpful. I think Also, I'm also kind of person that will fit into a subgroup or a conversation that needs to be had, just so that I can be useful. I have a lot of interest when it comes to education, especially when it comes to our young people and about their success. And I believe that it's because of older generation leaders that were there for me that got me to where I was. So now it's my turn to give it back. So
That's it for me.
All right, well, thank you very much for answering these questions. We ask that you return to the waiting room. We might ask you back for some follow-up, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna give the board a few minutes to review everything. When you're done, we have Post-its in front of you. Please select 2 names of the top 2 candidates you would like to move on as final candidates. And then you can pass them down to me, and I will tell you how. So you can feel free to go through your applications, take some time to read it.
It's the ranking hierarchy.
So you're gonna just select, no, the ranking is anywhere along. So, and then you're just gonna give me a post-it of the names of the people that you would like to, 2 names.
Okay.
You can post them on this piece of paper and pass them to me. Is it ready? No. I should do the first. Put one answer or this one? Yeah, these are in one post-it, you can put one name and the other one.
What do we do?
You can put your post-its on it and I'll pass it down to the next one.
So you in order of the 2 or
Just the 2, we're gonna see, if there's commonalities in people that we choose right now. If you're done, you can just move on the right direction. Okay. You can take your time and consider the options. Oh, okay. Well, this is the first. We unanimously selected the same 2 people. Wow. Every single one of our board members selected 2 people to be the final candidates. Candidates. And that is
The same 2 people?
same 2 people. And that is for the public to know. It is Laura Nunez and Miller Latu. Now, the conversation continues to, do we feel we need to bring them back for more questions?
So
Do we
we'll
feel-
hear from the public first.
No, we will, just give me a second. So, do we feel like we need to bring them back, or do we feel like we're ready to hear from the public and deliberate? Was there anything that was said that you felt maybe raised a different question? That maybe wasn't on this questionnaire, but you feel like would be good for the public to know? We can bring them back before we continue the process.
So, through the chair, I just have one question, which I think we should have asked, which is experience working on a team. Because very much, I mean, on this board or any board, you have to be part of the team. And so what experience have they had? And if they worked on a team, what role have they played on that team?
I like that question. And through the chair, I would also, add something I'm interested in is similar to, the team dynamics and how you navigate those different dynamics and different personalities. And so I'm thinking about the culture of this board and the culture institution, right? From the teachers union to the community to the superintendent to the board. And what is your personal style in the face of disagreement? So not like how can you make a decision, but like when we disagree, if we're gonna have different of opinion, or even with the superintendent, like how do you engage with that? You know, are you just like a bully and strong-headed, or are you gonna be able to think, or you're gonna be timid and not able to stand up for your ideas, or can you stand up for your ideas? What I'm looking for is someone who.
No, we don't want to say.
Okay, sorry, we don't want to say got it. But yes, but that's what I want to hear more about.
Okay, so we have two questions. Trustee Gahn, is there a question that you feel that I'm okay? I'm okay with those two questions. I think that speaks to, like follow-up that would be good for us to know as we think about a team dynamic. So we should definitely, I think, disinfect and then we'll start at the beginning, loud on that and follow up on that.
So this is my question. Do we want to hear from the public?
Yeah, we are definitely gonna hear from
But we want to hear.
We can hear from them.
Yeah, I think we should do it.
That's fine. We can hear from them. Okay, and we'll give the.
Should we dismiss the two?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
We'll take a little break and then hear from the public.
Right ahead.
This thing looked like an owl or something. It looks like a two round eye.
Oh, is it?
So who made that question about between the regular meeting, the special meeting?
For me. But you know what? I had a similar question. Because you don't realize how much.
No, people don't realize how much time it is.
He did not.
He should, because we're gonna bring him back up.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we'll-
No, wait a minute, yes, I did that.
That sounds like.
What?
He's here.
Oh, is he calling?
Oh, I said he's coming.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, well,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I feel like before people turn in their application to run the election, they need to hear, like, the real deal. And how much hours did you take? What are you doing?
You can tell them.
yeah.
No, I mean, I think they need to realize how much time it takes and also need to realize that it's not an easy job, not just because of the time, but because sometimes you are faced with making difficult decisions. And not everybody, who is receptive to the decisions. Yeah. It looks easier from the outside than the inside.
For sure, I learned it.
Are you ready to see this?
I think so, yeah, we're ready to speak.
Okay, we'll go in the order that I saw them raise their hand. Okay. Michelle Sombrano, you should be able to unmute yourself and speak. Michelle Sombrano,
Hi, I'm here. Can you hear me?
can you hear? Michelle?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Michelle Sombrano?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can see you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
It's not on mute. It might be on your end.
It should be on you.
Yeah, she is.
Don't look at it up, it's not on.
You can hear. Hold on 1 second, Michelle. Oh.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Now we can hear you. Sorry about that.
Oh, okay. I think from the webinar, everybody can hear me, but you couldn't hear me in the boardroom. Can you hear me clearly? Can I begin, or I'll take your direction?
Yes, please.
Okay. Members of the board, my name is Michelle Zambrano, and I'm a 37-year resident of East Palo Alto and wish to make a public comment. I am the candidate who was not permitted to interview via Zoom today. I am deeply disturbed by how the communication was handled, which ultimately led to my exclusion from interviewing. Nowhere in the application does it state that the interviews would be conducted in person as a mandatory requirement, especially given the current state of the pandemic. Secondly, I feel very uncomfortable with being pressured to disclose my health information as part of this interview process. And lastly, no communication happened, as was stated in the beginning of this meeting, around the safety protocols that would be taken for the in-person interviews. I am willing to share all written correspondence that happened between Ms. Polito and I. And additionally, and just lastly, the sound of this broadcast is completely unacceptable. If we captured 15% of what was being said, it's a lot. So my request is that that be corrected to ensure that the public has access to hear word for word what is being discussed, as I feel that that is very important. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're not respond to any comments.
We spoke to it in the beginning, and I mean, if you would like to speak to it,
You know, I just feel like I wish we would have voted on it. I mean, the way things are right now, I am here and I am sick, but I am a board member. But if I was like, I would have not come, I would have not put my.
We
stuff.
cannot hear you, and it would be great to hear the conversation that is happening. We cannot hear anything. It comes across as complete mumble.
Oh, wow. So I guess the sound is bad. What I'm just saying is that I feel really bad that this happened, and I wish that we would have voted on it, because I feel like the way things are right now, asking somebody to be here in order to get interviews, putting them at risk, and that shouldn't be actually. I feel like that was the wrong thing to do. That's why I was asking, are we gonna vote on it? Because the way things are right now, we shouldn't have to put somebody at risk. Thank you.
I would just, the chair, yes. I feel like we took all the precautions, okay? You know, I would venture to say that of the people on the board, I'm the one that's at the highest risk. I'm older, I have health issues. So for me, if I can make a commitment to be here, understand, and I called to find out what the protocol is. And I'm comfortable with the fact that we have this, but we don't have any people out there. We're distanced, we have on our masks, and so we need to proceed.
I just also want to note that in my communication,
I
I wanted to note that my communication with Mr. Zambrano, I did not list off the various things we were going to do, but I did tell him that all health and safety related guidelines and protocols will be followed, as I stated in the beginning of my summary. So I just want to make that clear. Had she asked specifically, I would have provided the information. Trustee,
Through the chair, thank you. So I was a member on the subcommittee alongside Trustee Polito, President Polito, and so she did talk to me about it, we talked together, and I agreed that, you know, this was a situation where it was so significant that we would want to have someone in person to have an interview, similar to when we have the interview of candidates for the position of superintendent. To me, it's the same value, it's the same significance. And, you know, I just had an interview the other day in person, so I don't think that this is, I'm trying to be reasonable, I'm trying to be a human, trying to have empathy. But I also know that in certain situations, there are some things, you know, there are some callings where you have to do something that you might not necessarily want to do. And I think in this case, this is okay. And I also don't think, she said that we asked her to disclose her health background, and that is not the case. I think we said if you have an underlying health issue and you can't be in person, let us know, because we're trying to work with you and have you here, but we didn't say show us health records, or anything, so I just want to be transparent about that. That was not the case. So that opportunity was there, and I think there was no response, I think, after that. You could correct me if I'm wrong. So, I'm sorry that, you know, someone wants to be here to serve the community, but they can't. But I also think in accordance to the, you know, the procedure that we decided, then, you know, we came to this decision.
The only thing is when we hired the superintendent, it was different levels of widespread. Right now, we didn't put all this and that worsened. I just have to say that.
Thank you.
The translator is missing.
Oh, okay.
You can speak in. If you're on English.
We can't hear you.
Yeah, I want to say while we're waiting that our superintendent, our employees, our superintendent, we have one employee, and are here working. They're working every day here in Trustee Mendoza. So I just think that I don't understand why, yeah, so I just wanted to point that out.
And then if I could, through the chair, on the application itself, it says, the interview is tentatively scheduled for December 3rd, time and location to be determined. So it was like, okay, so you know that it's being said here. So
I think our translator has a.
Yeah, we can hear you. Speak.
yes.
So I mean, microphone closer to us? But it doesn't need to be that far.
Well, the goal is, of course.
Oh, but now at this point, I think.
Let's give it a shot.
Oh, we should have had two, one.
I might have figured out a way to do it, but. Yeah, videos. Gonna be a little different.
Okay, the sound is one point in the video.
Okay.
Is that better?
Hello?
Yeah.
And the distance between you.
That's the one. So we're giving a summary to the response. Trustee, and I'm gonna speak as loudly as I can. Okay, well, okay. Then they're gonna choose this. Oh, sure, so no, okay. So Trustee Wilson said that she believes that enough information is given to bring a person for in-person interviews, and if anything, she has high risk factors for COVID, and she's present here today, and she feels that the health and safety guidelines and protocols we put in place were more than enough to have people come in person. Trustee Chabot-Mahin also noted that she felt that
I talked about the disclosure of health that you said.
oh, that's right, that we never asked her to disclose her personal health records. We asked if she had an underlying health condition that we needed to accommodate so that we could be responsive to her. We didn't ask for any medical records or any paperwork. I also noted that I did let her know that all health and safety protocols and guidelines would be followed today. She didn't ask for specific lists, but I did let her know that. And Trustee Chabot-Mahin also said that our staff is here every day. We're here, and we feel like the level of importance for this interview meets the need to be in person. And I believe Trustee Gaona said that the application, what, Trustee Ghana, can you repeat what you said? Okay, what did you say? I don't remember.
I said that we shouldn't have to put people at risk for the interview when right now, thank God, there is Zoom and it's almost the same. So I feel like we should have voted, but obviously even if we voted, most people felt like it was okay, but I really felt like it wasn't a good choice for me to say, no, you can participate because we are denying an accommodation that somebody might have, and even if they don't have a condition, or maybe that person has a condition and she doesn't want to share something, some writing, or somebody who they don't even know, or if they're gonna be chosen or not, I would probably feel the same. Why am I gonna go take a letter saying that I have this and this and this condition? People don't know what I have here, but why would I do that? Just in order to get the accommodation. It doesn't feel right to me, but obviously this is me myself. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to reaffirm that personal records were not requested.
Right. And I was gonna say, you can get the doctor to say, I'm at risk, high risk, they don't have to specify what the issue is.
Or she could have just told us that she was at risk.
Yeah, we weren't asking even for a letter from the doctor. We was just saying, what's your, is there a medical concern, that, and that's it. She could have
So
just
that's
said.
good that you have the emails that prove that. I would like to see those emails.
Okay. All right, so do we have other speakers?
Yes, one more, and one person was raising their hand at the end. The next
We should
speaker-
be timing these, Solomon. Can you put the timer up, shared screen, 2 minutes?
I'll figure it out. I have a screen. The next speaker is Ruben Abrika.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
And see you.
Yes, thank you for letting me in. I have 2 points I wanted to make at the beginning of the meeting, but it's now at the end. Number one, I think that it is difficult for everyone. And under these difficult and dangerous conditions, I feel it's actually discriminatory to not allow someone to be interviewed by Zoom, whether they have a condition or not. That should be their choice. And so, I think that the person who spoke, Michelle, is absolutely right. He should have been allowed, period. Number two, on the question of the deadline, there is obviously a contradiction, an inconsistency between what was announced. I think I checked it out, but the application itself does not state a time. It only says November 20th. I feel whenever the institution creates a contradiction for the public, it should be flexible enough to allow the public, to allow the applications in. I find that to be very rigid, restrictive, and ultimately probably not conforming to what the legal requirements are. The fact of the matter is that if somebody only looked at the application, which is possible, they didn't see 5 o'clock. And so why should the board decide not to hear that? Anyway, those are my points. And thank you very much for the opportunity to make those comments. I actually think the board should continue the process and allow those two, definitely Michelle and anybody who was late. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
The next speaker is, sorry, this is a little bit later. Next speaker is Nora Melendez. Nora Melendez, can you You should be.
Yes, hi.
Yeah, there you are.
Yes, I'm here.
So we can see you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so this is Nora, and I'd like to thank Mr. Abrica for his comment. I was one of the people that was technically late due just to a minor, oversight on my part. So I definitely agree that, I at least should be given a chance to be a part of the process. And it was decided that my application wouldn't be accepted on that technicality that I was late. And yes, I would reiterate the fact that the application doesn't state the 5 p.m. deadline, only a date. And in future, it would be great to have a different mechanism for people to submit their applications and personal statements, one that isn't subject to, errors of omission, which can be very, very easily prevented. And I'm not just talking about this for myself, but for future, people that might want to apply. And of course, I did send it in on time. My application was emailed at 3:51, but in the afternoon. And I only saw the bounced email a couple hours later, and I resent it once I realized that my email had bounced. So that was, the issue with mine. And I would appreciate it if the board would look at changing their method for receiving applications.
Thank you.
So do I understand right?
She said,
Try to put the application in at 3:30, but the wrong email.
Yeah, as I stated in the beginning, Trustee Galvin, I gave a list and a summary of the different scenarios and situations we found. One of the ones that I listed was that one person sent in her application to a different email address that was not hers.
That is very rigid. Don't you make mistakes? We all make mistakes, and right now I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about the other people. We're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. There is no reason to say, you know what, we sent it to the wrong one. I could have done it myself.
Trustee Galvin, we would like to hear from the public.
Wow. This is too much. We are being very rigid. And yeah, it's a big position, but who doesn't make a mistake like that? Just a little error typing. Are you perfect?
Do we have other speakers on?
No.
Yes, at least one more. Leah Sina, the promoter.
Okay, thank
I
you.
mean, the perfection, look at the application, that's the kind of time. Obviously, you're not perfect either.
Trustee Galvin, can you time? Thank you. We can let her.
Leah Sina, you can speak now. No, she's waiting for us. Leah Sina, we can see you and hear you.
That's the same.
That's the same lady.
Oh,
That's
okay.
her.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. Okay, she disappeared. Okay, now we can hear you. Yeah, please.
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to piggyback on a couple of things that other folks had. brought up already, and that was the audio. Yes, it's really horrible. So it was really difficult for us to hear a lot of the responses from the interviewers, and also I'd like to also encourage you guys to continue the interviewing process, especially for Michelle. I think that what Ruben had mentioned in regards to not allowing her to continue in the process because of her choice to not be on site is kind of going against what the governor has put out for a lot of the counties in the state. So I'm encouraging you all to give her the opportunity to interview. And we all understand that everyone has different health issues, but that's your choice to be on site. So if you would all allow her to make that choice for herself, for her own sanity and in wanting to protect herself health-wise, I really encourage you guys to have an open mind when it comes to these things, and not just your own perspective and choosing or deciding that you're there, so everyone else who wants to participate has to be there also. Almost all of our school meetings, our work meetings, they're all virtual. Why couldn't this be virtual? And that's something that I'm hoping that you guys can sit with for tonight. Thank you.
Hello, can you guys hear me? Yes? Okay, thank you. Rhonda White, president of the Ravenswood Teachers Association. I just want to say, and I'm not going to repeat it, it was very hard to hear the interviewees' responses, whether they had a mask on to hear, and it's really hard for me to give any suggestions or give an opinion, not that you asked for it. But I'm wondering, moving forward, can anyone there be more mindful of just trying to make sure that you're talking towards the screen? And I know you keep saying, use your teacher voice and project, but it's a struggle. So I applaud you guys for wanting to come in person and have this meeting, but it's just really rough for us. And so I just would like to ask, and thank you, Sharifa, for checking your text message and trying to get it a little louder, but as loud as you could get it, and as much as people can enunciate and pronounce things would be so helpful. Thank you.
Okay, next will be Jenny Bloom. Jenny Bloom. You can unmute. There she is.
So just a few things. Again, going off of what everyone said, the sound was very, very poor. We could barely hear any of the responses for at least two of the candidates. Two, I think that if you have inconsistencies in your application, then you need to go with whatever the wrong inconsistency is that gives the most time. So we can't say, oh, just because it was on the website, but it wasn't on a printout. When we think about college applications, when we think about any kind of official application, they go with what gives people the most grace. And I think that that's what we need to do, especially for a position like this, when the public needs to be part of the conversation. Second, I think
hearing public's comments in the beginning could have changed the dynamic of how the rest of the meeting went. So considering that, I understand it's a special meeting, you guys get to decide when you hear public comment, but if you heard this in the beginning, you could have made a different decision. Third, I think that yes, you can say, you know, we haven't done any meetings live except this one. Even during the last board meeting, which I did attend, I heard you guys say, oh, you know, I think we want to do it in person and we'll discuss and we'll decide. So that wasn't something that you announced to the public to say, hey, this is what we're doing, this is how we're doing it. You also didn't tell the applicants, if you're applying, this is what you're saying you have to say yes to. Secondly, or fourthly, or whatever number I'm on, just because the people who are working in the district are there doesn't mean we didn't have all the public there, right? This is a public office. So I understand if she was a member of the board and she had to show up in person, you show up and you do your job. This was something where you are asking members of the public to come and apply, right? When we are voting, we had the choice. Members of the public who can apply for this position are applying for this position. When we went to vote for our candidates, we could drop it off by mail, we could do it in person. So when we think about that, we also need to think about that when we're thinking about who we're interviewing. So I do think that the board should extend the time, should extend the invitations to the other people who submitted.
Okay, that's 2 minutes.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
That is it.
Okay, that's it. We are done with public comment.
So through the chair.
Yes.
I have run for office, at least 6 times. I have run for office at least 6 times. And there is clearly a process that is laid out. If you walk into Tower Road 1 minute after 5 with your application, it is rejected. If we start making this wiggle room about, well, you know, she was 10 minutes late and he was 4 minutes late, then this will never get finished. It'll go on and on and on. Then people will question that process. So I think it's wise that we stick to the process that we have outlined. For me, you know, I mean, especially with the lateness part, it's like, what day did we announce that the vacancy was going to be open, right? If you're really interested in running, you don't wait until the day that it's due, an hour before it's due, and then submit your application. To me, that's an indication of a lack of commitment to being involved, to following the process. You know, when you thought after the last 15 minutes that you wanted to apply? I mean, honestly, that's how I feel about it. There was enough time given for people to do it that frankly they shouldn't wait until the last minute to submit their application. Then the issue of 5 o'clock and not 5 o'clock wouldn't even be an issue.
Any other comments? Is the board interested in reconsidering?
I think it might be, I think it might be difficult to reconsider given, unless we come up with another set of questions for people. I do, sorry if you can't hear me. In terms of the lateness, like the people coming in after the deadline, I do feel firm that there was a process laid out in 2 places, right? So you saw it. I'm sorry, trustee. And you can talk this, of course. It was laid out in 2 places, and so I feel like that was clear. I have gone through, similar to what Trustee Wilson said, I have gone through these processes when I was trying to become a school board trustee, and yes, if you were late, that was it. It could be 1 minute, it could be I send it to the wrong email address, as in the case of one of our candidates, and there was, it's like, no, this is the process. And even in the case that the application says only the date and not the time, I don't necessarily see that it's inconsistent because it is the same date. And like I said, because the time is on the places where you get the application in 2 different places, I feel like that's okay. And again, we all have done these things, and I realize that people make mistakes. I also make mistakes. I also have been denied, consideration for something because I got in something late, and I made a plea and they said, no, we're gonna hold true to the process. So I understand, and I'm sorry because I appreciate that there are people who want to serve this community in this way. But I think that we would be going down a very slippery slope if we try to say, okay, let's consider this person versus that person, or this person versus that person, amongst all people who sent it in after the deadline. So I do feel firm about that. Now, in terms of Mr. Brano, that one I could absolutely understand the community's concerns, because I also, we grappled with this also, what should we do? And we came to a decision. And so I would ask, so I don't really know what to do there, if we should, change or anything, but I do think, we made a commitment to a process and said we would have it in person. I get that we didn't announce that before, but that was a decision we had made as a committee, and so, I don't know what it is there.
I recall talking about in person, what we weren't able to define at that point was where we were gonna have it and how it would operate, given that the public could not come in.
Mm-hmm.
That's what my memory, if I'm just using my memory, serves me, but we did talk and mention in-person interviews at the last board meeting. Maybe not all the details that everybody had asked about were formulated yet, but it was discussed. So I just wanted to add that.
Yes. Yes.
I just found out this meeting was gonna be in person yesterday. When you posted it.
Well, you weren't technically on the committee because you were an
No, I'm
applicant.
saying I found out that.
We discussed it at the last meeting.
It was like maybe yes, maybe no. That's it.
Okay, so the board has to determine next steps. So are we moving on with the process?
So I'm gonna leave because I feel like you guys are too rigid. You can sorry after that I say forward, you feel like too perfect, you don't make mistakes, then I cannot work like that. So I'm leaving.
That makes sense.
Well, that's really too bad. Everybody makes mistakes, but there's some mistakes that you have to live with.
Yes. Oh, good. And I'm not even worrying now about myself. I'm worrying about the other people. The fact that other people are in the same situation.
Is that your person this evening?
I don't know.
Trustee Gona, you left your purse.
I know, I'm going back. I'm just giving you. So I don't want to have any part of this. I just feel like the best solution is let us call an election.
I agree. That would be disastrous.
That would be whoever wins, it would be nice and fair.
Yeah, I've seen just as good without superintendent. Just
No
by the way.
population, oh my God, no population in this area of COVID. Good luck, guys.
Bye.
So,
You know what? Like I said, we have an established process. We're following the process. It's unfortunate. That's actually one of the comments. It's like, how do you deal with controversial issues?
Mm-hmm.
You get up and walk out because you don't get your way.
Yeah. Like I said, the one place where I would consider, is the issue of, Michelle Zambrano with, interviewing over Zoom, but people turning it in after the deadline, which was public, that I would not, and like I said, I do make mistakes, I admitted that, and I do understand, it's unfortunate, but that's the one place where I would not, say we change the process.
Trustee Wilson, are you also open to interviewing Michelle Zambrano? She's on the line technically.
You would interview her.
Interview her virtually.
Is she prepared for the interview?
Yeah, I had asked her to show up in the case that the board would determine to interview her virtually if the board decided to do so.
Yeah, when she's here and you told her Should be
I told her.
prepared.
Is she still here?
And is she the
Yeah, actually, has
only,
her hand raised.
through the chair, is she the only one who said that? So, okay, because I don't want somebody else to come from outside saying, oh, I asked for it too, you didn't give it to me,
No,
Here we go.
there were 6 people, I believe, who
Right.
turned it in on time, and then 1 did not
Fill the
accept,
application.
yeah, to come in for an interview. Just didn't want to do the interview at all, and then the other
Okay.
one.
Okay, so the board determines to move forward with not accepting late applications, but they will accept providing a virtual interview for Michelle Zambrano, correct? Okay, so good thing we had this discussion prior to finalists. So do you want to bring her as a panelist so we can ask these questions, Solomon?
Yeah, after she still wants to be prepared.
Let's see, and just so you know, another person who has raised their hand twice, she.
No, I think it's one, yeah.
Just
Only
once.
once, right? I just want to make that clear. So it wasn't- Okay, so Michelle Sobrano. She's being promoted.
Does she have a question?
No, we'll read them to her.
Well, we should ask her.
Well, she's been hearing them, so.
We can maybe email, but she said she had trouble hearing, so maybe we can.
Well, I can ask the question since I have the mic in front of me and project my voice. Is she on?
I promoted her. We didn't. Did not take. There she is.
Okay. Hi, Michelle, can you hear us? Can you hear me? I can't hear her, Solomon.
Can you hear me? I'm here.
Oh, there you go. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Okay, great. We can hear you as well clearly. So the board further considered your request and will now, if you still are interested, interview you for the position. Okay, all right. So I'm going to read the question since I'm in front of the mic and it'll be easier for you to hear. And I'll start off with question 1. Can you tell?
I'm sorry.
Yes.
I don't have my, I need another sheet.
We don't have another sheet, but do you want to use these?
Yeah, thank you.
Trustee Shalom, you want
I
to-
have one, I have one.
Yeah, I wrote my
Thank you.
notes, sorry.
All right, can you tell us the reason why you chose to apply for this board vacancy?
Good evening. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
So the reason I am as I mentioned, I'm a 37-year resident of East Palo Alto and proud to be raising my 2 young children as the next generation of our city. I am passionate about early childhood education and aware of the invaluable role parents play as primary educators. The uniqueness of our city lies in our diversity, and our young people represent the next wave of leaders. It is up to us, the parents, to advocate for our youth and prepare them for the future. I truly believe that Ravenswood is capable of being nationally recognized as a model of educational excellence, and I want to be part of delivering on that vision for our young people. I want to serve on the Ravenswood School District Governing Board because I want my children to stay in East Palo Alto schools. I believe in the value of getting involved early and the importance of partnering with and outreach to families before children become school age. I want to advocate for our youth through education and believe in the strength of mothers. When we come together, we can drive change. I will bring a parental voice to shaping decisions now that will impact my children, their classmates, and all of the future students of the district. And that is why I'm applying for the position.
Thank you. What do you believe the role of a trustee is?
I think the role of a trustee, there's various components. Governing is ensuring ultimately the success of students. As a governance board, to ensure that staff, teachers, everyone is aligned to completely keep the children as the #1 priority.
Thank you. What in your background or experience makes you feel prepared to serve on this board? Please tell us about your experience with education in a school setting. For example, past positions related to teaching in the classroom, special education, formal governance, curriculum development, and/or education policy.
So I do not have an educational background. My background is in business. However, recently I did accept a position within my son's preschool here in East Palo Alto. He attends IHSD, and I am the council rep for the school, representing the school and the parents. I think that as a board member, I will bring a unique perspective and thoughtful decision making to collaborate with the existing board to continue the great work that is already outlined and underway as part of the 5-year strategic plan. And I hope to accomplish this by leveraging the cornerstones of my business acumen, which is critical thinking, effective communication, relationship building, and leadership. Utilizing my 19 years of business experience, I will help the district solve complex problems and implement strategic plans that balance short-term and long-term objectives. So although I do not have an educational background, I believe my business background, especially around financials, will add a balanced approach for the board. Thank you.
Thank you. What do you believe are the major issues facing the district?
There's a number of them, but I'll highlight what I think is the main one, and it's not just unique to the Ravenswood district, it's to every single school across our country, and that is the financial and operational issues that the pandemic has brought forth. With my background, I feel that I can help to best utilize the resources now and to also continue to plan and grow for the future. So I think operationally and financially, our entire country is in a point in which we have to do things differently, and we don't know what that looks like. So I think that is a major challenge. Safety concerns, when to open the schools, especially given the significant increase in positive testing in our city. I think that I would categorize as absolutely the number one issue around public safety. Additionally, acquiring and retaining highly effective teachers and providing consistent training for them, I think is very important. And we can't discount the personal life challenges for many families and their impact of the children's readiness to learn that the pandemic has brought. I think those are some of the challenges, the major challenges that the board, school, and staff should prioritize.
How would you manage a situation where you are faced with a difficult decision that is in the best interest of the district, but that has community opposition?
Great question. So I think that what is most important from a board perspective in interacting with the public is transparency. Critical transparency, ensuring that the public understands why decisions are being made, how they're being made from beginning to end. I think that will help, even if we're faced as a public citizen with a decision that we don't like, we understand why it's being made. So I think, to answer your question, transparency is very important.
Understanding the sensitive nature of our district's budget and resource management, what would you do to prepare Ravenswood for the financial challenges that a potential state recession might bring?
That's a tough question because I don't know in depth the financials. What I do know is that the challenges that a significant number of charter schools and Tinsley program and all these extra school options that are being provided to students are taking away from the financial health of our city. And I think it's really important that we look at how we're going to balance our current situation. So it's a tough question for me to answer without fully understanding, truthfully, what the financials currently look like. I do know that the school closures, the lack of attendance or low attendance of students within our community is significantly impacting that. So I think that would be one of the first things to look at. And as I mentioned, my background from a financial perspective, that's what I do. So I understand the numbers, and I would look at the financials and from there be able to determine what the recommendations would be, short term and long term. Thank you.
Thank you. Between regular meetings, special meetings, subcommittee meetings, meetings with the superintendent, meetings with community members, email, phone correspondence, the time commitment of a school board member can easily be anywhere between 16 to 24 hours per month. If you were to serve as the president or vice president during your time with the board, those hours would increase. Do you have the time in your schedule to dedicate the next 2 years to be an actively engaged school board trustee?
Yes, and the short answer is wherever my children are, I will be, and I will be heavily involved, whatever it takes.
In just a few short sentences, is there anything else you think we should know as we consider your candidacy?
I think my who I am as a person is someone who has a strong ability to see people, to actively listen, and to really understand their needs. And I want to make that statement because I think that is what makes me unique and why I'm staying to the very end and why I'm really pushing to have for this interview as a sign of my commitment. So thank you.
Thank you very much. It's all, we're done.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so I'm passing out a new Post-its. And please, now with Michelle as part
So now we
of
want.
the candidates, please put your top two. So, okay. With the submissions of the board trustees, the finalists are Laura Nunez and Melelatu. So we thank everyone who's participated this far, and we will now move into the follow-up interviews. And I believe we have 2 questions that we will use as a follow-up interviews. So can we have Laura come in, please? How are we gonna play this with this mic? I'm worried about the mic.
We can't have them come any closer.
Maybe I'll move it. I'm gonna get hands-on here so that the public can hear.
Yeah, I don't know what to do with the sound. Yeah, the other piece of this, yeah.
Hello, welcome back.
Thank you. Hello. Hi, thanks for staying so late.
I am going to be, in the name of transparency and public interest, I am making myself the portable microphone assistant.
Something else?
I'm gonna move it because no one can hear what's happening, and it's frustrating to everyone that they don't know what's going on. So I'm gonna move the trolley back and forth.
When did I do?
Well, you know, you'd like to do that.
I see, so I'm gonna ask the first question.
So trustee Wilson and trustee Shomini will be asking each a question to you, Ms. Newman, and Solomon will take, you can wait to the mic next to you. Okay.
So I would like for you to share with us any experience you have working on a team and defining your role on that team.
So working on a team, I feel like I do that all the time, both professionally and personally. On the personal level, this pandemic has absolutely shown me that I can't get by without a team, especially with all the things that we have to handle at home. You need people on your side to get things done. Professionally, I work at East Palo Alto Academy, and I'm part of many, many different teams. Whether it's my grade level team to make sure that all the students in my grade are doing well or they're best supported the way that we can. Whether it's advisory, where I make sure that my 15 to 20 students are supported, taking the right classes, earning the grades that we want them to earn, or whether it's even in my math department team. Just different teams that you can work on. And I feel like in every one of those teams, you can serve a different role. Whether sometimes you just have to be the scribe, and sometimes you have more knowledge, so you take the lead on a couple of things. Just being able to find your role and knowing that it's not always the same thing. You kind of have to assess where your greatest strengths are, and when you can put them to use for the betterment of the team, then put them to use. And if you're not very well at first, then maybe sit back a little, support in any way that you can.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yep, got to roll it.
This. The last thing I need to do, make sure the computer can see you.
Ah, fun times, fun times.
Okay. Yeah, we're okay.
Even though
The public should be able to hear us.
Can you confirm that?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you hear us? Oh, you got it.
That icon tells me you cannot.
I know.
Like it says no sound.
It's going down.
Did the microphone lose power?
No, it's right when he moved it. See, that's why I was on the line.
Yeah, the microphone lose power.
You got a light.
Microphone which is why that you.
Okay, Rhonda says it's back on.
Yeah.
So you can hear us?
Can someone tell us?
Can somebody tell us, Rhonda, raise your hand if you can hear us?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, they can hear us.
Thank you,
Yes,
ma'am.
okay.
Okay,
Okay, we're back
thank
on,
you.
we're back on.
Back on. Thank you for your patience. And the only other question we have is we just want you to please speak to us about your argumentative style. Here on the board, we have 5 trustees, you know, with different perspectives, different opinions. Then you add in the superintendent who has a different opinion. And I think a lot of times these decisions can get sticky, they can get personal, they can get controversial. And so really just want you to describe like your values when it comes to how do you know, push what you think is right, but at the same time, listen to others, and just tell us about that argumentative nature.
Okay, give us a second. So you can just come
You remember?
Yeah, argumentative style.
Speak as loud as you can.
Yeah. I would like to say that I try not to argue as much, but my family members will probably tell me that I'm still hard-headed, even though I try not to be. But I think I'm hard-headed when, and not even hard-headed, it's not the best word, but I can stick to what I think is right. And I feel like as a board, at least what I've seen, your values of integrity, being student-centered, being innovative, being excellent, empowering, and respectful, as long as we can stick to those are the ones I'll stick to. That being said, I think I mentioned it earlier in the interview, the mathematical, analytical part of me wants everything to be equal and fair. And so I am always willing to hear different sides and make a better decision once I hear everything, because you don't know what you don't know. And if I don't know and and we can work through it together to figure out what the best way to move forward is, then I'm willing to change and try to meet in the middle so that we can have something that even if I'm not happy, completely happy, and we can move that way. Because if we keep the students in the center, I think that's what matters. And then we can move forward from there.
Thank you. Those are the questions.
Thank you.
You can go back to the questions.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much. Sorry. Let's go to Sharika. Why don't you just put that here?
No, it doesn't.
There you go.
Is that the speaker?
Gracias, Antonio.
Oh, okay.
Right,
And the camera.
each of the microphones.
You should have got 2 of those ones.
Hmm?
You should have got 2 of those.
Yeah.
Next time, next time. Yeah. It's like, oh. Project your voice as loudly as possible. Yeah, I'm gonna be on high.
I did it once.
Someone's really polite, but I'm like.
Come on in.
Welcome back. So we have 2 follow-up questions for you. Trustee Wilson will ask one, Trustee Shidomi will ask the other. If you can wait until the mic gets to you to answer. So you have like a couple seconds to think about it. Thank you.
So my question is, can you share with us an experience that you've had working as part of a team? And what has been your role on that? And it might be several examples, but also tell us what your role has been on that.
Oh, no, wait.
There you go. Speak.
So, no, I'm just kidding. So I have I'll bring up my nonprofit work. I was the program coordinator, and I was with a team with people that are older than me, and I had people who were also younger. And I had to learn fairly quickly that in my position, where much is required from me. And so I had to be very transparent, organized, because if not, our work would easily fall behind. We had a lot of different opinions, and sometimes when you've worked with someone who has a lot more years in the workforce than you do, sometimes you can kind of clash. But I took a lot of the feedback that I gained and tried to make sure that I made adjustments. I think sometimes when you're in leadership positions for long periods of time, you can forget that you're human as well. And we worked in a very just connected. I wanted them to know that I'm not their boss. I'm part of the team. We're part of the same coin, just different sides. And as long as we can work together, we can achieve anything. I see the work that we do as a functioning body. Somebody might be the face, but there's another person that's the back. And so it's just about realizing that we all work in conjunction with one another. And there's no one part that's more important than the other.
Thank you. Thank you. Please go for it.
Who's next? Tim?
Thank you, Solomon.
My apologies.
And thank you, Mele, for that answer. And for the final question of the night, could you please, well, not really a question, well, I guess it's a request rather than a question. Could you please speak to us about your argumentative style? We experience lots of controversial and very serious issues here, and we are 5 distinct independent people, or we will be once everyone's here, and a lot of opinions, a lot of strong opinions, along with that of the public and the community and the staff and the students and families we serve. So how do you balance communicating your opinion in the heat of the moment? Please speak to your argumentative style.
I am very calm when it comes to confrontation. I believe that some of my strong suits is my ability to listen before I act, and make sure that, the words that I use aren't going to belittle or break down my fellow team member, but that the message that I'm trying to convey gets across. I think oftentimes we can let our emotions control how we feel, but I always try to make sure that before I speak and when I do speak, that I'm level-headed and that I make sure that what's really happening inside is going to be conveyed across. I think working with other people, it's important to understand that we're all individuals, like we all have different opinions on certain matters, but our core value is the same, is that we want to see the success of the school. And so it's not like I'm going against my enemy, but I'm working with my team member to find a solution. And I'm not saying that everything I've done or I've made decisions on is right, but what I'm saying is I'm willing to work on it if there's a side that I'm not seeing. And so I really believe it's talking with people out of respect, trying to listen as much and see where they're coming from, see where I'm coming from, and finding that middle ground if there is. But if there isn't, making that decision on what's best for the constituents of who we serve.
Thank you. Thank you. We invite you to go back into the waiting room, and we'll let you know what we need to do back there. Thank you. You guys need a 5-minute break, or do you want to break? Yeah, go for it.
Restroom break.
We're taking a 2-3 minute restroom break.
Muchísimas gracias.
Sí, de nada.
No, not at all. Yeah, not at all. Not at all.
I feel like sometimes in leadership, you're in a situation of lose-lose, you know what I mean?
For sure, for
Um,
sure.
You go one way because you think it's the right thing to do and people are gonna be upset, and then if you go the other way because you think it's the right thing to do, people are gonna be upset. So,
Absolutely. If we had accepted people after, there'd be people, I believe, the same number of people calling in and saying, you said this, it was clear, if they didn't see it, why did you let them? So I think.
Exactly, if you accept people afterwards, you would have been potentially accused of being biased and
Yep.
making exceptions, and
Yep.
why aren't we respecting what we said we were gonna do? That's what I'm saying, sometimes.
No, it's difficult.
It's just,
difficult.
there's no winning.
Yeah, it's difficult. And that's what everybody who's listening teach me to understand. That sometimes the decision is very clear, like what's needed, and then there are times where you've got to make a decision and you've got to stick with it, obviously, with compassion, with empathy, but at the same time, sometimes you just have to make a hard decision and go. Because you're not going to make everybody happy, for sure.
It just so happens every single time we have bad news to bear, I'm usually.
Yeah, exactly. Miss President.
But I'm always the president when there's like a challenging situation to face.
For sure.
I'm not, that's not to say that other
Yeah.
presidents don't face their own challenges, but I always feel.
Yeah. No, it's tough. It's tough.
I'm often the bearer of bad news.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh my God, it's coming. Hello.
Hello.
So much to discuss. Trustee Wilson, or I can move to, do one of us want to move here so we can be talking to each other versus?
I'm fine. I can hear.
And so that the mic also picks up a lot better?
Well, I can move it. Wherever's safer for you.
Oh, I thought you said they couldn't hear us.
Earlier, when it was in the middle, but it's my understanding that now they can hear.
No, because we're moving it around. Are they going to be able to hear this dialogue? Okay, all right. I'm going to trust you, Solomon. Let me try to put it more in the middle, so. Okay, so now we have decisions to make. And discussions to have to determine who will be selected and at the next board meeting formally approved for this board vacancy. So people can talk about each candidate and why they think they're the best fit, both or one. And as always, I'll always allow my fellow board members to go first and say or speak to one or both candidates and why they feel either one or both would be ideal for the position. So who would like to go first?
I can go first.
Okay.
This is a very difficult decision for me because I actually was very impressed with both of the final two candidates, both Mele and Laura. I've been here in East Palo Alto, working and living. I've seen both of them across many spaces and many organizations, so they're very, very actively involved in the community in many different ways. I think when I think of both of them and the things you hear in the community about people, I feel like all the comments about them are positive. You know, they're good-natured people. I think they respect the experiences and perspectives of the community that they would be serving. So to me, they're like neck and neck right there. I think they would both be an asset to this board and to this district to serve in this way. So now for the nuance and how do you make a decision, I had to go back and think of when we started this, when we first got the news, about Trustee Fitch resigning, and then thinking about, okay, how are we going to do this process? What were I think at one of our meetings we asked, what were we looking for, or something like that, or when we're talking about the search process. And one of the things I said I was looking for was I was looking for someone to bring in similar values to what I thought Stephanie or Trustee Fitch brought to the board. And what I thought was many of the things like Mele and Laura, I think she shared many of those same characteristics. You know, grew up here, raised here, in the schools around in the area, working here, very well balanced sense of perspective. And I think both Laura and Mele shared that. I think the difference is the difference in experience in education. And so to me, that's really the only distinguishing factor that I could really think of. And that is, while Mele has, you know, good experience in leadership and being on a team and everything, and I know that she's been in many community organizations in that role, I feel like Laura is bringing the background of being, you know, a teacher, understanding dynamics with, you know, teacher unions, working with different groups and teams, you know, in that whole system. She's in the high school system, which is important, as we all know, as we think of the successful transition of our middle schoolers to high school. And so I think that that would be a good perspective to have on the board. And I feel like that directly, that kind of goes hand in hand with what I think Stephanie Fitch brought to the board. And so for me, that puts Laura a bit over Mele. And to be transparent, I understand that I know Laura, everyone knows that. You know, we ran together in 2018 or whatever the year was.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was Laura Nunez. Yeah, so I understand. We're in the community, so we're gonna know all these people. I know Mele, you know, from One EPA and from Bloomhouse, as we all know Mele and have worked with her and are friends with her. So we all know these two candidates in personal ways. But I think it's really just that experience in the school setting that puts Laura for me over the top.
Okay. Thank you, Trustee Shivani. I will now pass the mic to Trustee Wilson.
Thank you. I too actually know both of them. Laura actually worked for me when I was at college track. And Mele was a student when I was at college track. So I actually know them both, okay? And you're right, it's neck and neck, okay? Both of them, I think, will bring some skills to the board. I'm leaning more towards Mele, number one, because she ran. And see, that was one of the questions that I think that we couldn't ask, but I really wanted to know, well, why didn't you run? It's like, okay, so you put your application in, but there was just an election. So that to me speaks a lot to the commitment. It's like Mele really wanted to be on this board. That's why she ran. And so that would be the only thing for me. The other thing is that she does have, in fact, classroom experience at our sites, because she did Baggett for like 3 or 4 years working out of our CCRMS site. So she is familiar with the teachers over there. She's familiar with the kids. You know, she sort of understands our system already because she's been part of it. But the main thing for me is that the fact that she ran and really wanted to be on this board. I mean, and I understand that Laura ran 2 years ago, and she may not have put in this time because she just had a baby. You know, so that to me is why I'm leaning towards Mele.
Thank you, Trustee Wilson. No, you all did not put me in an awkward position at all. But regardless of where I land, us three have to be able to come to an agreement. Yeah. Okay, just before I start, we all three have to be able to come together and say we can get behind X or Y candidate. So for me as well, I believe that both of these candidates brought quite great qualities. Both of them have experience working within the community. Both of them have been longstanding members, and I would consider both of them success stories. Both have worked directly with our youth, and Mele obviously more specifically with our younger youth, given that Laura is in high school teaching. They both ran, so I like that they've both shown interest before this point. They both have experience in a school setting. Both of them to me read as very collaborative, team-oriented, and would potentially be very pleasant to work with. I didn't see any red flags that would make me feel any concern as to how they would engage. Both of them said things that called my attention, like student center, community center. And I was excited for both of them as candidates. So when I think about what sets them apart, there are technical things, as in we have Laura, who is a teacher, and she's kind of been in more formal settings. But then I would look at Mele and say, Mele comes from an approach of mental health and behavioral interventions, which is something that is very prominent in our schools and very much an issue that we have to look at. So she comes from a whole student approach, and I believe she said that because I wrote that down. And I'm sure in teaching you also have that lens. What this ended up distinguishing them to me was what I was thinking as a board collectively. They're both great candidates. But I was actually thinking about what voice is not at the table right now. Okay, so I'm gonna be the dinosaur of the board once Trustee Wilson and Trustee Gana move on. Okay, we have 2 new trustees coming in, although the election is not certified. Mathematically, I believe it is near impossible for them not to be certified as the new candidates. One of them is very pro-teacher, and that's something that Stephanie felt strongly about, advocating for, teacher concerns and teacher issues. That's to say we're all supportive of our teaching staff, but kind of what is their nucleus. And then, who is a Caucasian woman. Then we have an Asian woman, which I was told was Asian woman also coming in, who's maybe newer to the community, but feels like there's fresh ideas that she has to bring. And I think it's always great to have people at the table that are gonna provide a new perspective that and look at things in a way that maybe you didn't consider before. She's also a parent. And I'm excited about that because I'm always talking about parents, and better a parent talk about parents than someone who is not currently a parent. And then I think about Mele and how she represents a gap we have right now on the board. I feel I'll be the only remaining Latina, but I'll fill that role. We have an African-American trustee that will remain. And we all know that the 3 largest populations here is first Latino, followed by Pacific Islander and African American. I believe their numbers are about the same.
Pacific Islanders are about 1 or 2 points below.
Okay, so Pacific Islanders might be slightly under. It's been some time since we've had a Pacific Islander voice. And that's not to say that when we're here as board members, we only represent the cultural box we fall into. That is not the case. We represent all groups, all students, all families, all socioeconomic backgrounds. And I want to be very clear about that. I know that we are a community that is the majority falls in low income, but we are serving all levels of income, and we welcome all levels of income for families and students. So we're here to serve everybody. But what I do find a value add to having diversity on the board is that there are certain things about my experience that can be shared by a person who is living it. And so my experience as a Latina at Ravenswood will be different than potentially an experience of an African-American individual, potentially different than a Pacific Islander, different than a Caucasian, different than an Asian. and any other group that I'm missing. And there's a lot of other groups, so, or, you know, Middle Eastern. So I feel like for me, what sets her slightly apart is that we're adding on a voice that is not currently or hasn't been represented in some time. And that to me seems like a valuable voice to have on the board. Other than that, I want to agree with both of you to say that I feel like both of these candidates are great in some in similar ways and other in different ways. They're both great. I would be happy to work with either one of them.
Yeah.
If the board, you know, as I'm talking about Mele and why I feel like she's distinguished in a unique way. That being said, if for some reason the board decided to go with Laura, I would happily welcome and embrace Laura onto this board, and I would not feel let down or cheated in any way, and vice versa with Mele. So I think they're both great candidates. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. But once again, right now we're giving initial impressions and reactions, but we have to all come, especially since we have one board member that left.
Right.
We had a board member that abandoned the process. She's technically in her right to do so. So now it leaves it to us three to be able to get all on the same page of who we select and how we move forward. So,
I just wanted to add that, I mean, I'm glad that you brought that up about the social emotional part, because I didn't even think about that. But she does have the experience of working with that social emotional issue, and that is one of the main things that we're gonna have to focus on, particularly after the COVID issue. You know, the kids, you know, we may not have these kids back in school for another, 3, 4, 6 months. It might be this summer, you know, and the kids are going through a lot. So having somebody that understands that perspective and that could provide some support around that area, I think would really be good.
I mean, we're hearing terrible stories right now regarding what's happening with the social emotional well-being of children having to be in distance learning, tragic stories that I don't even want to repeat. But that was one of the things that stood out to me, that background and her being able to come into the conversation with that lens at the forefront, and having been a service provider and a partner with our students, she does understand it in even a deeper way. Because sometimes we get people that want to be partners, but they don't understand our populations. They don't understand our kids or community. And in this case, she's actually worked directly with our kids and directly with our community in this area, and obviously in other areas, you know, by reading and listening to what she had to say.
Can you speak more to that, about that? Because I don't think I understand her role, because I thought she worked for one EPA, and then they were bringing in someone to provide the services, and she was over managing that. But are you saying that she is the service provider?
Yes.
She's a behavioral health, it was BAGIT, and I know what it stands for because from my previous time, behavioral health advisory team.
Yeah.
So she was a coordinator. Do you want to speak more to that?
Coordinator, but she was actually in the classroom. So she was on site, working directly with the students. So even though she was a coordinator, you know, I mean, you know, we don't have the kind of agencies that can have a coordinator not be involved with the students.
Sure, for sure.
So yeah, so that's it. So, you know, again, that was one of the things that stood out, is that she is familiar, the kids are familiar with her. You know, she's familiar with the staff over there, you know?
Yeah, no, thank you. That all makes sense, and it just makes it harder, because, and just, again, so we know my heart, I think either way is gonna be fine with me. I do still have the lens on the teaching side, on the learning side, even with a holistic child development point of view. When I think about the committees that we're on, when I think about the strategic planning, when I think about the budget committee, when I think about the returning to school committee, all those issues are kind of centered or grounded in our pedagogy, our teaching practice, what we're doing with students to make sure they get the skills to be prepared to go to the next level so that they can pursue their passions and whatever is in our vision statement. I can't remember the exact words, but literally everything. When we talked about the strategic plan, most of it was around those skills and how do we make sure our kids leave prepared. When we look at the budget on the budget committee that I'm on here, we're looking at how to manage our resources in a way that align and reinforce our priorities and plans and goals around the skills, the real skills children need to have when they leave. And then even on the return to school committee, absolutely, mental wellness. You can't even do anything without mental wellness. And all of that, like social emotional learning, all of that. But at the end of the day, what does all of those are tools to get to our center, which is how do we fully prepare our kids pre-K through 8 to go on and be successful. And again, it has to do with how do we make sure they get those skills, how do they learn to write, to read, how they learn numeracy, and all of these other beautiful skills you gotta have. And so it just feels like to have that perspective is essential. And I think right now with the board dynamics, we would have Bronwyn, I believe, who's still teaching.
She taught in this district for 15 years.
So we have her perspective. I know, but I'm just saying that's one. And I'm just saying, I don't know if that's enough, but I know, and I know we all have our experiences too. I'm just giving my opinion.
Yeah.
And then I also feel like Lauda does also bring, even though she doesn't have formal experience in this, she has another perspective where I think we have a big gap, and that's around special education. And I think that's because she mentioned her brother going to school in the district, and I know that he is a student with special needs. He came through, he was a student here, and I've seen her actively, and I think lots of people have, extremely active with her brother and helping him meet his developmental and educational needs. And I feel like that's another perspective that we're losing with Maria Elena, and I believe she's a teacher in special education, I think. So that's another gap on our board. And so I'm just pointing that out for folks, because I think that would be helpful too. But at the end of the day, like I said, we would be privileged to work with either of these people, so.
I would just note, I agree with everything you just said, is why Laura is a great candidate. She's in the classroom. She said her siblings was in special ed. And she brings that great value. I think what Wilson's response was that, and what I was getting to in the beginning is I was thinking about what voice is missing on our board. And Bronwyn, who will be certified to win, hopefully by December 3rd, I think, or I forgot what date. She is a teacher. She's a teacher in our classrooms, in our own classrooms at Ravenswood City School District. So I don't believe we're losing a teacher-focused, teacher lens because Bronwyn is coming in as another board member. That's what I was saying. I was talking about our different cultural backgrounds, but I was also identifying different things of like, what is our role, right? And I was thinking about, oh, Bronwyn's a teacher. She's a teacher from our school. We don't lose that. The other candidate, Jenny, she's a parent. That person that's receiving on the other end of the services that we're providing, she's on the receiving end, and her child is on the receiving end. And I love that we're going to have that a part of the conversation. We haven't had someone with a focus on mental health, well-being, that has the experience and background and behavioral kind of interventions, which we often struggle with, especially on middle school level. So I agree. I don't disagree with anything you said about Laura. I think you're on the money. But I just go back to, I know we're having a teacher voice that's coming on board, and so what voice don't we have? And that's where I battle.
Yeah, through the chair, I mean, I do think that it would be outstanding if this board reflected the population of this district. Okay, and that is surely we are missing a Pacific Islander voice. There hasn't been one in 10 years. The last one was, or 8 years. The last one was Chester Palisade. And that was like 8 years ago. And yet our school and the Pacific Islander community, or students, have more challenges. You know, if you start looking at our data, you know, around truancy, around discipline, you know, and so they need to be represented at the table. And I do think, like I said, I mean, to me, the board would reflect what East Palo Alto is. You know, the broad diversity that we bring to the table, you know, the different perspectives. You know, I think it will help us get more of the Pacific Islander families engaged in the school because they feel like they have somebody that they can talk to, you know, somebody that they can relate to. Not that none of us, you know, wouldn't be open to hear from, but that's just the reality. You know, so that's why for me, I'm more of a, you know, again, I would strongly support having melee.
Is it possible to get do we want to get public comments on this? Because it seems like, or no?
We can, but it would be, it have to be different speakers. Speakers are only allowed to speak
Even technically, is it technically a different issue?
one item.
One item. Different question though.
Same item though.
Run the way, that's what you
Oh, okay. Our RTA presidents. They're both great.
I know.
It's one of those things like, why do we have two vacancies?
I know.
I was hoping this process would identify a clear winner, like a clear, like, no questions asked.
You Rhonda?
Yeah, I'm coming on. I think my hand was raised because I was trying to flag down to talk about we couldn't hear and the audio and all that. And I think if other people aren't going to be allowed to speak because it's the same item, I actually feel funny speaking again. So if other people are not going to be allowed to speak, then I don't.
We were going to ask you for speaking as RTA president or as a community member because you have the opportunity to do.
Oh, I can't be Rhonda White, huh?
Yes, you can. You're
Yeah.
parent of our school.
You forget your role.
Be Rhonda White. Hi, everybody. I'm Rhonda White. I have 2 kids who attend school in Ravenswood. You know, I am just hoping that I think both candidates will be great. They're well known in the community. I think they're both go-getters. I'm always thinking, you know, is it a writer variety and in the Polynesian community is missing? Is it another person who's a parent, even though it might be just not quite a year old? You know, what's the perspective that's missing? And so this is not just a difficult decision, but it also there's only 3 votes. So it makes it real hard to go back and forth for debate, because the reality is if the 3 of you don't come together under a decision, it costs the district $400,000, which we don't have. That's my Rhonda White RTA president parent talking. So let me go on back and get out of this. So, you know, I'm just going to say whatever happens, happens. I'm happy to work with either of the ladies as a parent, a community member, as a teacher, and let's move forward. So, you know, it is what it is. Thank you.
Thank you. And I also want to know that usually our RTA president / parent has a very she usually knows which way she wants to go, and she's in the same place we are. They're both great. They both have strengths, and we could see either one of them a part of the team. And we would each and every single one of us would be happy to work with either one of them. And that just goes back to.
And I can argue either way.
Right, exactly.
I can argue both. I could say, Mele ran, but she didn't get the votes. But I could say, last time Laura ran, but she didn't get the votes. But, I could say one's Polynesian, one's Latina, they're both females. One's a mom, one's not a mom, they're both educated in Ravenswood. So I could go back and forth and back and forth. And so, I think at the end of the day, I'm just excited that we have two viable candidates who, as long as they have the students of Ravenswood best interest at heart, we should be able to move forward. And my RTA hat is, we'll be watching. So, I'm excited. Thank you.
So traditionally.
There is one other person to raise their hand who had raised their hand before.
Oh, great. Yes, we would love to hear from whoever that is. Which they have 2 minutes, and Trustee Shibomahim is timing you. No, Shibomahim. Heen or Heen?
With an N.
Heen, okay. I don't know why you Shibomahim.
I didn't realize that all the candidates are women.
Shibomahim. Oh, no, or
Yeah. I don't know how that keeps happening.
And for the record, no, I think we had one man.
Leah Natal, you raised your hand. Did you want to speak? You can unmute yourself. You wanted to speak again?
Hi, yes. I would like to say that as a fellow Polynesian, I agree with Sharifa in saying that for the Polynesian community, it is important for us to see someone at the table who can connect with us and just culturally, but also just reiterating the fact that right now a lot of parents are going through issues with their kids on mental health problems, and I think that is at the top of the priority, and Mele has that experience. So I'm really hoping that you all take that into consideration with your candidates, and understanding that yes, the other candidate does bring a really great experience, but for those two things, I'm hoping that she will be able to reconnect us with the Polynesian community. Thank you.
Never mind. Oh, okay, sure, let's hear.
Michelle Zambrano?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, the comment that I want to make is that I believe that the board should be represented by people that look like people in the community. I think it's very important to have that diversity, that perspective, the cultural difference, that the only way to get it is to have the board be represented and have it look like the people in the community. So I would ask the board to really consider Mele as the candidate. Thank you.
Thank you. As the public has seen, if you've already spoken, would like to speak again, we're listening. If you would like to raise your hand. We'll give you a couple seconds to think about it, because you will help kind of build a case for either one. I think so, she's here. I mean, I can't speak to it. I don't know for a fact, but.
Odiambo. Should be a panelist now. Odiambo.
Give him a second.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, Odiambo, you should be able to unmute.
Yeah, he's unmuted.
Please speak.
Good evening, Trustee Polito, Solomon, and Sherry and Wilson. I really do like the argument that has been advanced by both Trustee Polito and Trustee Wilson, that every single voice that we can have on the board needs to get an opportunity to be on the board. So I'd be very, very supportive to have a Polynesian American on the board. And I think since the three trustees already agree that either one of them could do, either one of them are so solidly qualified. If he had two positions, he'd have taken both of them. But it does that distinct difference about getting that cultural, representation on the board, I think is a very critical point. And so if I could, add additional weight to that fact, I would like to do that. So I would really like for you to consider Mele Latu very, very seriously. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe we have other speakers. Okay, I think this is around the third time, so let's go to Nora.
I feel like if Maida said it, it's done. We're done. No.
She just
If
made
Maida
it.
said it, we're done. Close the night.
Is it Nora? Can we hear from Nora Solomon?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, there we
Nora,
go.
It's fine.
yes, yes.
I'd like to,
She froze.
Let's give her.
Yeah, I did that. Sorry, it was a little delay. Give me a second. Bring her back. Okay, sorry, Nora, please speak.
There she goes. You're muted, Nora.
sorry, my connection keeps cutting out. So I'd like to agree with everyone's comments about the board being inclusive and culturally diverse. That would be great. And I'd like to add also that although we don't know, anyway, I'd like to add that it sounds like he brings the voice of the younger millennial to the group, so that would be awesome to have that added energy to the board.
Thank you.
Thanks.
There's Rhonda. What did you say?
Okay, can she speak again?
Oh, she's speaking as a different person this time.
Okay. I forgot she's two people.
So under each person?
Is that Rhonda again?
Do I promote her?
Rhonda, did you accidentally raise your hand?
Rhonda, did you accidentally raise your hand?
No, I didn't accidentally raise my hand. I would love to have the opportunity to speak again.
Rhonda, you spoke twice already.
No, but you told me one time I spoke as Rhonda, one time I spoke as RTA president. And since that you're allowing people to speak as two, you can pick one if you like.
All right, go ahead, Rhonda.
So appreciate you, Anna. Goodness, you're being so amenable. I just like you more and more today. I'm not going to choose between Mele or Laura, just because I think no matter what, both of them are going to be great additions to the board. I think they also, I have no idea what my screen is off. I also think their presence, whatever they bring, will make this board cohesive and solid. Yes, it is always great to see someone who looks like us in a leadership role and in a position of power. And it's just also know that they've both been longstanding members of the community and they plan on continuing to do so. So I'm going to be happy with either of them, but I am not going to pick between the two of them because I'm going to work with either one of them in whichever role they end up being in. And so I'm hoping that we will be wrapping this meeting up soon so we can all go home and attend to other business. Thank you. Oh, and Alexander Bronwyn no longer works in this district as a teacher.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, no.
She could run for the board if she was on the teaching staff.
Yeah, so in case we were not clear, our statements about Bronwyn Alexander was she was a teacher at Ravenswood for, I don't know, at least 15 years. And we were just noting her background and experience and the voice she brings with her as she joins the board.
Okay, so those are our speakers. I don't know if there's any further discussion, but we do have to determine what direction we're going, because at our next regular session board meeting, we will agendize it with the formal vote and list the person that we have selected here tonight. So we all three still need to get on the same boat. It seems that there was a lot of support for the issue of diversity and the, in not just culturally, but in perspective as far as mental health background. That's, I think, the general tone of the public speakers. And when I began my reasoning, that's exactly where I was. I said they're both great in similar ways and in different ways. And the only thing that, pulled me towards Mele was the fact that she's representing an absent voice right now on the board. That was really the thing that kind of separated them slightly. So Trustee Shimomi, I know that you've advocated for Laura, but I would love to hear from you.
Yes, I'm not going to hold up the vote because I would be equally, like I said, privileged to work with Mele on this board. This is I'm really proud of. And I think everything that everyone has said about her and what she said about herself would be a definite culture add to our board. I will give her my vote as well. I still feel some feelings about like the teacher side, yeah, but I absolutely trust that she will be an amazing board trustee.
So you would be supportive of moving forward with her as the finalist?
Absolutely.
Okay.
There's nothing, also, there are no strikes against her. It was literally a matter of, what am I valuing a little bit more in this moment? And that was a very hard conversation because it could be anything. It could be mental health, it could be special education, it could be high school transition, it could be the millennial point of view, and all of those are equally important. So, so absolutely, I would gladly vote for Mele as well. So.
I just want to say we want to thank all the candidates who participated, who took interest. This was a difficult process, and no process is perfect, but we feel like the outcome is representative of who we are as a community and where we're headed. So I think we have come to a conclusion that we're not formally voting tonight, but we are not formally voting tonight, but we have created a directive of who will be the finalists and who will be formally voted at the next regular board meeting. And at this point, we will have all three of us on the same page because we'll need all three votes to determine that Mele will be the candidate, Mele Latu. So I don't know if she's hearing us, but congratulations. Are they hearing us? Are they hearing? Oh, they cannot hear us. Okay, so. All right, so we should probably call Mele back in, or how do we manage this?
I don't know, because it's public, so it makes it very difficult. And I guess, you call her and tell her. I don't know that we would want to bring in.
Wow,
Laura and have that public, that feels interesting. Is the lawyer still on, is county counsel still on?
I mean, it's up to us to decide. What happened?
She's gonna get them, but she just.
You want to bring
Should
up?
we just let them know? Should we just close the meeting and let them know? Because I don't know.
Okay, we're gonna close the meeting and tell them personally because there's different news to go around. But we're letting the public know that we are moving forward with Mele Latu, and we will formally vote on this at the regular board meeting happening next Thursday. We thank you all for attending, and we apologize for any feelings that were upset by this whole situation, and we will see you at our next meeting. It is, what time is it?
8:24.
It's 8:24. Are we off air?
No.
So how are we managing?